Hello and welcome to With Wellner Anderson. This is the network where we talk about economics, political, and business things in simple terms. Today we're going to talk about supply chains. A supply chain is a sequence of events that provides you with the finished product or good. Without supply chains, you would have to do every aspect of a product. Could you imagine putting a car together and being responsible for each part of a car? Without supply chains, your cost would be a lot higher. There'd be no specialization, so you wouldn't be gaining knowledge in that particular aspect. You have to maintain the total inventory for everything you had. You wouldn't get much for your human capital because they would not become expertise or specialized in the area. The trading environment, you wouldn't have a hardy trading environment. And you have to manage logistics, which would be unreal. So where did this all start? It started back with a gentleman named Adam Smith, who came together with the concept of division of labor. Adam Smith is the father of economics. What Adam found out is he had a pin, and he figured, if he had this pin all made by one person, there was about 10 or 11 different pieces that had to be assembled. What Adam Smith figured, if each person specialized in the piece of that pin, he'd not only be able to get them to be experts in that particular area, but he'd be able to produce more pins. Later on, a gentleman named David RICARDO came up with something called comparative advantage. If you think about it, it makes sense. A guy like LeBron James, he can cut his grass in 10 minutes. Or should he pay somebody who may cut his grass in 40 minutes and he uses his time for something else? That's part of the supply chain. You do what you can do best. You lean on someone else on something that they can do best, even if you can do it. The Ford Motor Company with the assembly line had the initial concept. And this is what was a constant theme that's going to be in this is just in time. The Japanese developed the concept of getting materials just as you need them. So that means you don't have to tie your money up in inventory, your money's free, and you don't have to have these big warehouses. Some failed supply chains in World War II, for example, rubber, steel, hemp, nylon, rationing, you couldn't get them. Fukushima earthquake. The Fukushima earthquake left that area so that you couldn't get into the area, and there were huge manufacturers that provided product that the world needed that we couldn't get to. So when Fukushima cut down, the whole supply chain cut down. But you gotta think of supply chain more than just ships and trucks. It's sort of like, if you can imagine there's a car accident and there's 10 cars in the accident and they remove the first car, there's still 9 cars ahead of you. So by just taking care of the shipping and trucking problem, the supply chain problem still exists. Because you can think back that if you were providing a product that manufacturers needed, how much of that would you provide now, being that you don't have the forecasting tools because all those ships are there and you really don't know how fast or how long this is going to be, this delay. Also, modern supply chains should cover taxes, they should cover contracts, they should have backup paths, backup routes, backup sources, forecasting, which we talked about before. They should even include payables and receivables. Supply chains work on trust. You may be if you're building a car, you may have 3,000 components in it. You don't know the 3,000 different people you're getting it from. So trust has to be part of it. Ineffective supply chain failures can bring you inflation like what we're experiencing now. Inventory. How much of the stuff do you stock? Because when you inventory items, that's warehouse space, and that's less money you have to do other things with. Again, just in time. Okay. Scarcity, another issue. You have hoarding. It makes planning so much more difficult. A future supply chain is going to have a trusted system with alternative paths, network resilience, smart contracts, and something called service level agreements. What service level agreements do is they obligate, let's say in that case where you have a car with 3,000 parts, they obligate the people who provide those parts to you to deliver them at a certain time, in a certain condition, at a certain cost. So, again, supply chains are not just ships and boats. Once the supply chain is disturbed, there are countless of other suppliers in that supply chain that have to reassess their inventories, their money, their value. That's really the essence of supply chains. I'd like to thank you very much for you joining with me today. Please give me a thumbs up and please subscribe. Have a great day.